Alright guys, this is Matt with 10 plus 1. Today I'm going to show you guys how I clean my Glock 19. It's a Gen 3. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Obviously I already did my safety check. The thing is not loaded, nothing in there. We're ready to roll. Real quick, before I actually get going too crazy on this, today I'm using Shooter Lube. Stuff works real good. There's no sponsor or anything. This stuff just works really good. There's no harsh smell or anything. So if I want to do this inside, which I typically do when the weather's real hot or real cold, I'll just do this at my computer desk in the house. Anyways, this stuff works so good. I've tried a lot of different stuff, but a majority of it just smells too strong or it just doesn't work that well. But this stuff works great, so I use it. Anyways, so I got the slide apart. Take my spring out, take my barrel out, and I'm not going to go into a big in-depth video of what every part is, what every part does. If you're watching this, I'm going to assume you own firearms and you already clean your handguns. I'm just doing an in-depth video on how I do it. Maybe it's a little different than other people. Maybe it'll make it a little easier. There's a few things that I do to my firearms when I first buy them out of the box that I'll also go over briefly. I may do a long video on that later. Real quick, excuse my voice. I'm losing my voice a little bit after that Kings game last night against the Warriors. Got that first win, so excuse my voice if it sounds a little rough right now. Anyways, let's get into this. So I'll put the frame and everything to the side first. I'll get into just cleaning the slide. This is what I do as far as a deep clean after a heavy range day. We had a pretty heavy range day last weekend, and I'm just lagging on getting this thing cleaned up. So that's what we're doing today. I'm gonna do a full thorough clean, breaking down the slide and everything. So what I'll typically do first is go ahead and spray a little bit of this lubricant in this barrel a little bit and let that sit and break all that grime down in there. And then I'll go ahead and take this slide apart real quick. Like I said, I may do a more in-depth video later, getting into parts and everything and how to properly break down the firearm for, you know, the newer guys that may have never done it. When I first did it, my first time, when I first got my first Glock, it was a little intimidating, but it's really not that crazy. Take this back plate off, take this firing spring out, firing pin, drop this plunger. All right, my slide is all the way taken apart. I'm gonna take all these pieces and set them to the side. Now, there is a channel liner is what it's called. It's just a small circle tube inside the hole that the firing pin comes out of. You gotta make sure that stays in there. If it slides out real easy, you may need to get a replacement on it. I had no clue that part was even in there and even existed until I had this, actually not this slide, this is all stock. On my Glock 17, I had my slide Cerakoted, and when I got it back, that channel liner was sticking out a little bit. I wasn't even sure what it was, but that's how I learned. Anyways, so what I do is I don't spray any cleaner directly into any of the channels or holes or anything in there. It's just not necessary, and it'll make it a little bit harder to get everything out. So what I do is just spray a little bit right here inside the slide, and I'll take my little nylon brush and I'll start cleaning it that way. Sometimes, being that it's a dry brush, I'll put a little spray on the brush itself, and I'll just start working that cleaner all throughout here. And this is where I will clean this area, because I won't get so much lubricant inside the little compartments and everything in the slide. I'll just break everything down. And this gun is not super dirty, but it is my carry gun, so I'm gonna treat it as if it is super dirty. If it's a tool that your life may depend on, or your family's life may depend on, you may want to treat it that way. So I'll make sure to clean this rail real good inside here. And again, I'm not going to get too crazy on detail of the way I explain what I'm doing. I'm assuming most people, if you're watching this video, you're probably going to, for the most part, know what you're doing already, and maybe you're just looking for something a little bit different, a little trick of the trade that you may not have picked up on your own or in other videos. So I got two separate towels. One is super dirty and one is just a little bit dirty. So when I go to wipe off something super dirty, obviously I'm gonna use a real dirty towel, and then I'll do my final wipe down with the cleaner towel. Kind of common sense logic. I guess not a lot of people have that nowadays, so I'm just wiping all that grime and everything that I just scrubbed down inside here. Just do a quick wipe down. Next thing I do is take some of these patches. Everybody knows what a patch is, I'm assuming. If you don't, it's just a little piece of cotton square. I'll take this skinnier side of my brush, put it right inside those grooves, right inside this little channel where the slide will slide on the frame. If you look on the frame, I guess I'm getting into it as if you're brand new to guns, but there's these little rails right here, and that's what goes inside the little channel inside the slide. So I'm taking this and I'm rubbing it right inside there, get all the gunk and grime in there. If you are brand new to firearms, you may be wondering, like, why does it have to be so clean? Well, any little thing, it could be, you know, I clean my carry gun once a week, even if I didn't take it to the range and use it at all. The reason for that is while I'm carrying it, sometimes I might get lint and stuff from clothing inside the firearm somewhere. I don't want that to be something that causes my gun to malfunction if I ever had to use it in a defense situation. So that's the purpose of making sure that everything is super clean. So again, I take this patch and I just keep putting it on a clean spot, and all throughout the gun and all the little crevices and corners and everything, I just basically just scrub it with that patch until I know that it's pretty clean. See, not much is coming off there. That's where it started. It was pretty dark. That's where it originally started. So I get to where there's pretty much nothing in there. So I'm gonna call that good. And then another thing that I do that I don't really see on a lot of other videos, when I was first learning how to clean my firearm, this is kind of one of my little tricks of the trade, I guess. I take a Q-tip and I pull off the cotton. Not all of it, but you do have to pull quite a bit of it off to where it's pretty flat like that. And then I'll put a little bit of the cleaning solution on it. Kind of wipe it off. Just like that. Now, there's this little hole. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a little hole right here. You got a bigger one there. Then you also have a hole in there for the plunger and everything. I like to use this small piece of Q-tip that's got the cotton pulled off into this smaller one right here. It's able to just go right in there. Kind of clean that out. You'll see in a second. It gets pretty nasty in there. Like I said, I just used this gun last weekend. Took my son and a friend of his out on Easter. I put a video of that up, just a quick video of myself. It was kind of just a test video for this channel. And I probably fired maybe about 200 rounds through this only. We had a few other guns out there that we're enjoying ourselves with. So this thing isn't too dirty, so it shouldn't take too much. But again, I'm taking this Q-tip now without the cotton torn off, and I'm going inside this plunger hole. Just get it nice and clean in there. It shouldn't be too bad in there unless it's been a long time since you've cleaned your gun. It typically shouldn't be too bad in there, but you can see that's just after 200 rounds, because I did go through and I did a deep clean right before that last range trip, so it did get fairly dirty in there. So if you don't know how to clean your slide, you really should, especially if it's a carry firearm. I'm not willing to take any chances and just assume my gun is just going to be fine, especially everybody knows Glocks are notorious for being the most reliable gun out there. Again, I'm doing another one now where I tear the cotton off here. This one I'm not going to spray any solution on because I know that this gun is not that dirty. But there's another little hole right here, and I'm going to run that through there. And this is one thing I think a lot of people, when they first start breaking down their slides, see that thing is not even dirty. So we're pretty much good to go right there. I'll come through the other side where the firing pin would be, just to make sure. But I know this is pretty dang clean too. Yeah. Anyways, so I'm gonna call that good. My slide is now clean. I'll set it to the side, come back to my barrel real quick. I have a brass brush that came, I don't know if this came with one of my cleaning kits or whatever, but I use this to clean this area, my feed ramp and everything on my barrel. So I'll just give it a quick brush real quick. And this barrel was sitting in that solution. But I think that's pretty much good. Typically I'll go out and I'll run quite a few rounds through my, especially my carry gun, just for training purposes. I'm spraying some of this solution on this brush here. I'm gonna run this through my barrel. But yeah, usually when I go out on a range trip, especially with my carry gun, I'll run anywhere from 300 to 500 rounds in a trip, and that's when the gun is pretty dang dirty and really needs a good cleaning. So that's that. That thing needs to be wiped down now. That's pretty much all it takes, especially with how clean this gun is. Sometimes you'll get some buildup right here. I don't know if you can see. You'll get some buildup right here on the barrel. And I'll use this little tool here. It's kind of like a dental pick thing that came in another gun kit, cleaning kit that I got. And you might have to like kind of scrub it a little bit and break that stuff down. And it'll come off and wipe off real good, but this thing's pretty clean. So then take a couple more of these patches. I like to take one or two. Most of these patch kits, they all have like sizing on it. I'll usually go with a smaller ramrod that will easily fit in my gun. There's quite a bit of play in there. And I'll double up on the patches instead of just using one patch. And just for the heck of it, I'll pretend that this gun is really dirty, even though I just scrubbed my barrel. Put the patch right over the barrel, and I'll run it through there just like that. I'll take that, it's the side that I ran through the first time, and now I'll flip it over and do the other side. Just like that. I'm gonna do one more. Got two patches here. Spray it just a little bit. Put it right over the barrel. Run it through there. We're clean now. Yeah, we're all the way clean. So that one is good to go. Now, take my cleaner rag and give it one final wipe down real quick. And I'll set that off to the side. So now my barrel and my slide are both ready for lubricant. A little later, I'll check and inspect my spring. Again, at the beginning of the video, I had mentioned that there's some things I do to my firearm when I first purchase it. I'm not going to go in depth of how to do this, but one of the things that I do is I polish up a lot of my internal parts. And the reason for that is the smooth function of the gun. If you take a brand new Glock 19 and you just play with the operation of it, racking the slide and pressing the trigger with it unloaded, you'll feel a kind of almost a grittiness to it. And then if you pick mine up, the way that it's all polished up and taken care of, you'll feel a major difference in the two firearms, especially when racking the slide. Now what I'm about to show you has nothing to do with the racking the slide part, but this is a lot to do with, part of it is just looks, but part of it actually has a function when it comes to pressing the trigger. So my firing pin here, when I first buy the firearm, I take my slide apart and I polish this up with a polishing wheel and polish. It's almost time to do it again. It's starting to get a little darker. It's typically a little shinier than it is. But if you just saw me, I was going through and just kind of wiping everything down. If it's extremely dirty, I'll go through with the cleaner and scrub everything and dry everything out. Just make sure if you do clean your internal parts for your slide with any type of solution, make sure you dry it off all the way. You do not want any moisture or anything inside your slide. So that's my firing pin, it's all clean. The other part that I do is this extractor depressor plunger. I polish this all up. And the way I do it is I put a polishing pad on a Dremel with a little bit of polishing compound, and I just go to town with it and then wipe it off real good. So that's ready to go. This is the other big one. Little one, almost lost it. Be careful, this little spring, it can come out of there and you will lose it. But I actually take the same Dremel, sorry, not the Dremel. There's a process to this I may do a video on later. I take this plunger, I have a way of attaching it into a drill, and I run the tip of this plunger on a small piece of fine grit sandpaper, and I round the edges off just a little bit, not much. And what that does is it makes a clean break with the trigger mechanism when it slides on there. It just makes it for a slightly smoother trigger pull. And then I go through and I polish that up as well. So again, I'm just gonna wipe everything down. Everything's super clean and polished. And when you do polish your parts like this, it does make for cleaning a lot easier. You typically don't need to scrub those because they're already polished up. You just need to wipe them down. And I'll probably go through, depending on how much I use the firearm throughout the year, just training, I'll go through and repolish them, the parts inside the slide and everything, and inside the frame, maybe once a year. But this gun is pretty new. I've had this 19 for maybe about, I don't know, 8 or 9 months, and I've been carrying it ever since. Definitely my favorite Glock by far. So our parts are all clean. I'll go ahead and start putting it back together. Again, if you've never taken a Glock apart, I highly suggest you doing some research on it before you decide to do that. Or just put this video in slow motion and watch what I'm doing. Alright, and then I'm just going to check the function of everything, make sure everything is working properly, and it is. So that's good to go. Alright, now onto the frame. I'll kind of look inside there and just double check everything, make sure everything looks as it's supposed to. And one thing about taking these pins out, when I start to break this down, somebody had told me a long time ago that these were actually made to be pressed out in a certain direction. I'm not sure which way it's supposed to go. And for some reason, out of all my Glocks, this one for some reason gives me the biggest headache, because it seems like one of these pins goes out smoother one way and the other one goes out smoother the opposite way. I only heard it from one person. I was never able to find any information on it. If you guys know anything about that, please let me know. Because on my other firearms, or my other Glocks, I should say, is I'm able to just push them out from this way. Straight down, all of them, they go out smooth. For some reason, I think this one, we'll see in just a second, I think one of these, it's a pain to get it to go down this way. I would have to turn around and push it out the opposite way. And I know, obviously, lifting the slide release lever and everything to get the one to drop out, but I haven't been able to figure out what it is that he was talking about. Try that again. So it came out fine from the other side, but yeah, see, it doesn't want to come out. Oh, there it goes. I guess it was kind of the same on both sides, but yeah, for some reason this bottom one has been giving me some trouble. All right, don't lose your pins. Slide release lever. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, if there's something that you guys know of out there to make those a little smoother, like I'm scared to like file them down or modify those in any way and then lose a part or something, or the gun just fall apart on me. And that was another pin. If you guys know anything about that, please let me know, because for some reason all of my other Glocks, those pins, they pop out so easy. It's so smooth, like not like easy where it's just gonna fall apart, but it's just so easy to take the frame apart. Anyways, from here you gotta take this out here. It just pops out. My trigger mechanism comes out. Now what I'll typically do here is obviously pay attention to all your small parts. And we'll get to the cleaning and talking about that in a second. I'll take my dirty rag and just wipe everything down real quick. Go all up through here where the mag goes. And just do a once over. If this firearm was extremely dirty, what I would typically do is spray some of my cleaner on the nylon brush, and I would start just scrubbing the heck out of everything. This brush has a little bit of solution on it, so it'll be enough to clean this gun because it's not super dirty. So I'll go all through inside the mag well, get all that clean. Anywhere you might see any type of buildup or anything, clean that stuff up. Again, this gun is super clean. And then I'll take my cleaner rag and go back through one more time. Wipe everything down real good. Also, once a year, it's not super necessary, but once a year I'll actually go through and I'll take my mag release out. This is an aftermarket mag release. It's a little bit longer than the stock one. It works so much better for me. It's just a little bit taller on there for me to reach. I don't have the biggest hand, so it's nice to be able, I don't have to adjust my grip so much to press that button. You know, I'm able to just a slight adjustment and drop that mag. So anyways, this thing is more than clean enough to my liking. Take these patches, put them on the small side of this nylon brush, and I'll scrub all these rails also. Just make sure there's nothing inside there. These are all really clean, you'll see right now. There's like nothing coming off of there that satisfies me. Okay, again, there's things I do to my guns when I first get them out of the box, before I even take them to the range for the very first time. One of them is these rails. If you get a brand new Glock, or you could probably even go grab any of your Glocks. If you don't know about this trick, you go grab any of your Glocks. I guarantee it's a little bit different than mine right here. All four of these rails, I go through with a Dremel. And if you never heard of this, never seen it, I don't even know if I've ever seen it online. I think this is just something with the way my brain works, I said, doing this, it may make this gun run better. So I don't recommend you doing this unless you're pretty dang mechanically inclined. All these little corners, I go through with a Dremel with a real fine grit, like sandpaper type attachment, and I file all the corners. Like every rough, sharp edge is actually filed down. That makes so when the slide is on there, it's way smoother than it typically would be. Usually you'll have like little metal burrs and stuff that need to be ran down. You know, they'll file down over time with the slide running back and forth, but this eliminates the break-in period of those. You're not taking enough material off to give it any type of malfunction or anything like that, or lose reliability in any way. It's just barely enough to make it to where those edges are not sharp. Again, I may do a video on that later, getting into how exactly I do it. I'd probably have to buy a new handgun to be able to show you guys, but because all of mine are already done, which I guess gives me a good excuse to buy another gun, right? Anyways, so my frame is clean. I also polish those. All 4 of those, I polish them real good with that Dremel and that polishing pad. So our frame is now done. And we have the slide release lever that usually just needs to be wiped down. Every now and then it does need to be scrubbed. Actually, I will hit it a little bit. You'll get some buildup inside here a little bit. Not much, but it does happen. I'll wipe it down. Just be careful when you're wiping it down. Don't bend that spring on there. So if you guys are watching this, down in the comments, let me know where everybody's from. I'm actually, unfortunately, I'm in California. Hopefully when it comes to our Second Amendment, it won't be so unfortunate soon. Hopefully this gun roster will be gone at some point in the near future. Another piece I clean up, the locking block here. This thing, it just looks better. I don't think it really serves much of a purpose to polish it, other than it just looks a lot better when it's in that clean gun. You'll see in just a minute now I get it all wiped up and cleaned up. Sometimes this will be really dirty where I gotta spray it with solution and scrub it and everything. It's just not that dirty, so I'm not gonna go through there and waste any of my cleaning product on it when it's not necessary. So that's clean and ready to go. Now to the trigger. I do the same thing with this as all the other parts. This all comes apart. If you've never done this, I don't recommend it without doing some thorough research. This will all come apart, and I take that polishing wheel to this as well. This all gets polished up, especially where these 2 metal contact points are here. I make sure everything's polished up really good. And I also do the ejector also. Again, it looks better. This actually serves a purpose when you got 2 metal on metal contact areas. Common sense and logic would tell you if they're smoother and cleaner, they'll function better. They'll rub together better. Pretty sure Glock actually recommends to put a small, little bit of oil where those 2 metal contact points meet. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. It literally just takes a small drop. Let's see. Just like that. That's actually probably a little too much. There we go. Just like that. So when you pull that trigger, it's gonna break from there. And that little bit of polished metal along with that little bit of lubricant right there will make that break so much smoother and so much cleaner. So yeah, I polished everything here, everything that all gets polished up real good. Got my lubricant on that contact point there. So let's just go ahead and throw this thing back together. Again, I'm gonna assume you guys know how to put your gun back together. If you don't, put this thing in slow motion or go watch other videos on it. Maybe eventually I'll do another super in-depth video on taking the gun apart and all the pieces and parts and mechanisms and all that good stuff. Slide that. went in just fine, but coming out, that thing is a pain. So our frame is back together now. Let me take this lubricant. I don't know if everybody does this, but right here where this part of the trigger mechanism meets with the plunger, I put just a small little dot of lubricant on there. I also go through and I put a small little dot of lubricant on all of these rails. So that's on the top side, and I'm literally just doing a small dot on the top and bottom of all these rails. It's like you can almost barely even see it, it's so little. It literally does not take much to have that thing lubed up. So our frame is done. I need to lubricate this barrel real quick. The way I do this, again, everybody has their ways. So this patch is gonna go inside this barrel. I'm gonna run it through there one time with the push rod. So it's gonna go through here just like this. So since it's gonna go down there just like that, what I like to do is this little area, like a little ring on there, is where I want my lubricant. So what I do is I make a circle with this lubricant. Because you don't want a bunch of lubricant in this barrel. So I just made a circle, just like that. So that's my contact area. That part of this patch is going to touch the inside of that barrel. But I also have the dry part of the patch over here that's going to dry any excess lubricant also as it slides through the barrel. So we go right in the center, runs it through there. That barrel is done. There's no sense in running another dry patch through there. The way this gun lubricant is designed is you put a little bit on there, and you see I just wiped off this area. So let's just give you a little example. A little lubricant on this patch. I can wipe it right here on the feed ramp or whatever. And you can see it, it's shiny, right? But if you wipe it, it almost looks like it's gone, but it's not, it's there. There's plenty of lubricant on there. That's all that you need for these firearms. You shouldn't be able to see a whole bunch of gooped up lubricant on your firearm on any of the parts. It's just not necessary. All right, so now we can put this thing back together. Pop our barrel in there. Recoil spring in there. Just like that. And some people go through and they lubricate the rails or the inside of that groove, that track inside the slide. But it's not necessary. I just put lubricant on all 4 of my rails, so it's not necessary. So there's that. Then the last spot I lubricate is just put a little drop right here, just like that. Just like that. Because that part of the barrel is going to rub on the underside of this slide. So I put a little bit there. YouTube probably won't allow me, but man, that thing is so smooth. There's no grittiness. All those rough edges are gone in there, and I'm getting the lubricant in there. So that thing is just, it's super smooth. So yeah, that's how I clean my Glock 19. Hope you guys learned something. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. That's it for me. I'm Matt. This is 10+1. Thanks for watching.